Hello! I'm going to show you how to make levels using OhMyGame. First of all, click the Levels tab at the bottom of the screen. Then press Add Map. Type in the name. Choose the size of the map. We're going to choose a small map because we don't really need that much room right now. And then the tile size. Since the tiles I've prepared are 64 by 64, we'll pick that and press Create Level. Press Level 1 and it will load the level. As you can see, there's nothing going on here. You can scroll by holding down space and dragging. As you can see, the scroll bars indicate that we're moving, as does the minimap. You can also click around the minimap or drag the scroll bars. There are 4 types of layers in the OhMyGame level editor, and we will need to make some of them before we can start building the level. Click the Add Layer button, choose Tile Map, and put in Grass. Create Layer. Then choose the grass layer, and notice the context-sensitive interface. This is the Paint Tile button, this is the Eraser button, this is the Clone Stamp, and this is another clone stamp. Before we can draw anything, we will need to add brushes. Press the Add Brush button and you'll get this dialog. Press Import Images. Now navigate to where you keep your tile sets. In this case, in here. And choose the grass tiles. Just press Ctrl A to select everything, or press the first file, hold Shift, press the last file, then open. Now press Show Example and you'll see a pattern. You'll also notice that the central tile is grayed out, and that's because the central tile, or the main tile in the tile set, can be animated. The animation frames are found over here. You can set the delay of animation frames with this slider, but we're not going to use this functionality right now. So the first thing we do is drag the center tile into the animation strip. We then find each of the tiles corresponding to the pattern in the image and drag them into place. Make sure to be meticulous about this, because the wrong brush will severely screw up your tile set. Now that we've completed composing the brush, give it a name. We'll call it Grass. Press Add Brush, and you got your brush. Now click it. Determine the size of your drawing brush in the level editor by using the grid. Just choose the area you want, press the mouse button, and you'll notice that you have a selection size in the editor. You can also use the arrow keys to increase the size. If you have a small size, you will draw the base tile and it will then turn into whatever is necessary when you complete the shape. It's recommended that you use a little bit of size so you can more easily tell how the structure you're drawing will turn out. Okay. As you can see, it's easy to draw shapes, to draw an area that looks good. You also notice you don't have to switch brushes to do edges and so forth. This will come in very handy when you're decorating and elaborating upon your levels. Let's erase what we have here now and build a more realistic terrain base. We'll make a bigger brush and we'll draw along the bottom of the screen. Make it a bit sizable. Now, this will serve as a good starting point. Now we can look at the other layer types. Let's add a prop layer. Let's see, we'll do the trees first. Now, create layer, select the layer, press Add Prop, import images, navigate to where you have your props, and import them. We'll import the two cherry trees. Now we can't import both of them at the same time because these are animated too. So we'll have to drag one of them down and create the prop. You don't have to give props a name. You just keep them there. Create prop. Now let's add the other tree. There. Props, as you can see, can also be animated, so you can have several frames of animation in a single prop. We're not going to use this functionality now. There we are. Now we got the trees in here, and we can drag them into the scene and add them. Just drag it in from the list of props at the bottom of the screen, and drop them in the world. You'll notice that they're lying behind the grass layer. If we grab the trees layer and drag it over the grass layer, it will sit on top. In this case, we want it to sit behind. You can rotate and scale props. You can also delete them by pressing here. Let's chuck in a couple of trees. Now, let's add some bushes. We want bushes to be on top of the trees, so we add new props. Import images. Select the bushes you want. Create the props. And if it doesn't appear in the list, simply reload the level, and they should appear. And they did. Select the prop layer again. Notice that everything is context sensitive. If you're in a tile level layer, you can only use brushes. If you're in a prop layer, you can only use props. Let's keep adding the props. Now that we have all of the props in the level, we can start placing them. Let's select the bush layer and drag in some of the bushes. As you can see, the props are sitting in the level. Now let's import a background image. This is yet another type of layer. Press Add Layer, press the Image layer, and choose a file. I would recommend keeping the files as big as the viewport of the game, which is by default 800 by 600. We will import hills, mountains, and a sky. We'll start by importing the sky. We'll call it the sky layer. No, we'll just call it sky. And press Create Layer. We'll notice our background is replaced by a light blue gradient. Select the sky layer and pay attention to the parallax X and Y sliders. Also notice that there are no other tools. Let's scroll. If we scroll, you'll notice that, oh, there's a tiling issue here. We need to sort that out. If I scroll down, the skies simply repeat. But by setting the parallax to y to 0, we can avoid it scrolling. Parallax y sets the speed at which the image scrolls along the y-axis, that is the vertical axis. If we set it to 2, it will scroll twice as fast as the camera. If we set it to 1, it will match the speed of the camera. If we set it to 0, it will be locked to the camera. Since the sky tiles along the horizontal axis, the parallax setting for x-axis is not as important. Let's add another few background layers to see how parallaxing can be used to create a sense of depth in the picture. We'll import the background mountains. Let's give it a name, mountains, and create layer. Drag it over the skies. Once again, set the parallax to 0, and notice that the image will not repeat vertically. We'll also want to set a slight x parallax value, because we want the mountains to appear distant. Set the parallax x to 0.2 and try scrolling. You'll notice that they scroll significantly slower than the foreground elements. Let's add another image layer. This will be the hills. Open the hills, create the layer, drag it on top of the mountains, and bang, we have hills. We want to set a slight parallax offset to these two. We'll lock the y-axis by setting the parallax y to 0, and then set the parallax x to 0.4. This makes it move twice as fast as the mountains, but more than half as slow as the foreground elements. Notice how this creates the illusion of depth in the image. Now, you can also set parallax speeds to your prop layers. We can try to decrease the parallax x slightly of the trees, set it to 0.7, and set the bushes to 0.8. Now notice that the grass tiles in front move slightly faster than the background elements, and we have created a significant illusion of depth. Finally, we have the actor layer. The actor layer is the layer responsible for collisions and also for placing objects that the player can be and interact with in the world. We have no actors right now, but I will show you how to use the collision geometry. Collision geometry can be found at the bottom here. The selection tool allows you to select objects in collision geometry. The polygon collision geometry allows you to draw arbitrary shapes by pressing the mouse button. Press again, draw your shape, and double click to finish. You can move collision geometry, and you can also delete it. We will set up a simple rectangular collision geometry in this case. We'll start in the corner and drag. You can still use the spacebar and the mouse button to drag your level while you're placing collision geometry. Try to keep your collision geometry in a single unbroken part. If there is overlap, such as this, characters may snag on the edges. Even if you believe that you have aligned them entirely like it looks like I have now, you will most likely see characters or actors snagging to the edge. So we'll delete that, and delete the first collision box, and then draw one that envelopes the entire shape of our tiles. There. Now we're going to make some actors with which to populate this little world we've created.